Lynn Larson. I am leading the tour for the Franklin Square tree species. This year I've done this about 6 years in a row. It's really fun. It's a beautiful day. I guess this is my 15 minutes of fame, being on video this time. So we start out at Franklin School, here behind us, a K through 8 school. It was built in 1947. One of the reasons we start the tour here is because there used to be a big leaf maple, huge big leaf maple here in this lawn, and there were 3 sister big leaf maples on the south side, all of which are gone. They just, after about 90 years, big leaf maples give up and die of just old age. So that's what we have here. Our next stop is a couple of blocks over. So our second stop features a Liriodendron tulipifera. Liriodendron is a beautiful name. It's this humongous tree behind me. It's one of the largest in Corvallis. Liriodendron is a very ancient species of tree. In fact, various extinct species have been found in the fossil record, which is amazing. It has a beautiful flower. It's not flowering yet, but the flower looks a bit like an orchid, and it also has a nice scent. So if you've got the room, you should try planting a long-lived Liriodendron. This yard also has a nice Japanese maple in it. So you can see how huge this trunk is. It's just astoundingly big. And it's seen a life as a treehouse, apparently, in the past. This house also includes a beautiful magnolia tree and a lovely Japanese maple. In Franklin Square. Franklin Square is pretty much in the middle of the Job's Addition Neighborhood Association boundaries. It is the oldest park in Corvallis. It was deeded to the city by the Job family. Job was an early farmer in the area in 1889. And the little map on the brochure notes the trees. Some of the trees, since we first did this brochure, have either died or been cut down because they were diseased, but most of them are still here. There are 3 giant sequoias, one on each corner and one in the center, west side. Those were planted around 1940. So you might think, we thought originally that they were much older than that, but they're not really that old. This small tree here is a bald cypress. It was planted in 2014, and John Pywell, our city forester, chose this type of tree because this area gets a little bit more moisture than some in the park, and bald cypress like a lot of wet. And it's doing quite well. This is a red oak. Nice park tree, provides a lot of shade in the summer. We have an annual picnic every year under these 2 trees, neighborhood picnic. This tree is a black locust. Then we have a Colorado spruce. Something growing at its base, but I don't know what that is. A volunteer of some kind. This is a deodar cedar. With a black locust behind it. The tree that's flowering is a horse chestnut in front of another giant sequoia. And on the corner, which replaced a silver maple that was dying, was cut down in 2019. It had root rot. They replaced it with an American hornbeam. That one's just a baby. Another Colorado spruce to the east of the sequoia. Prospector elm. Very elegant shape. The Colorado blue spruce behind it. This Port Orford cedar was also planted around 1940. And on the corner is a really nice American elm that's shedding all its seeds right now. It's lost some pretty large branches, but the Parks Department has managed to do some nice cleanup, and they're keeping an eye on it for Dutch elm disease. There's a whole row of these beautiful elms on the east approach to campus, the Elm Walk, leading up from Madison Avenue. This is a big leaf maple, a young one. park playground was replaced a couple of years ago. The little structure that was there before was starting to rot at the base. So with input from the neighbors, Parks and Rec has given us this wonderful play structure, which unfortunately is closed right now because of COVID. But the city has tried to keep this park more or less open. Some folks have asked about tennis courts or any number of things, but it's really nice to just have an open block, mostly grass, so that people can have picnics and play with their kids, play frisbee. People put those straps between the trees and do the balancing thing, which is fun to watch. So this has been a real asset to the neighborhood. This tree is a ginkgo tree. They're all over town. They're a most ancient variety of tree. The leaf is a very simple shape, and again, they have found fossils of these ginkgo leaves that haven't changed in millions and millions of years. They're a beautiful tree. I don't think they're native. This is a gorgeous scarlet oak. A big leaf maple behind it. Looks like another red oak. This is a beautiful deodar cedar. Has a very definite lean to it. It must have started out that way and never been corrected. There is a plaque underneath it in memory of Russell Charles Spruance. And unfortunately, we don't know who that was, but it's a nice memorial to him anyway. Always nice to plant a tree in memory of somebody. It's really doing well. This is a big leaf maple. Believe it or not, there used to be two of these in this house's yard. There was a twin on the other side of the front door. And a big limb came down and they decided they'd better take it down. Big leaf maple are interesting. They carry a huge load of mosses and ferns, and so much so that they create their own soil so that other macrophytes and bryophytes can get started in them. This is a beautiful specimen. The Saanich Indians used to make preparations from this maple to make an internal medicine and to treat sore throats. house was built by an OSU professor. It has a lot of really great specimens on the property. The tall evergreen is an Italian cypress. It's about 40 feet high. It's probably the largest one in town. There's what we think is a deodar cedar on this corner, a large magnolia here, and the huge tree behind the Italian cypress is a pecan tree. An enormous pecan tree, which also lost a large limb about 3 years ago. The small shrub on this corner, not the flowering azalea, but the shrub behind it, is a pomegranate. And it puts out a very small version of a pomegranate, which is one of the plants that surprised me. I wouldn't have thought that they would grow in this climate. But apparently the species does just fine. So the next trees on the tour is this grouping of mimosa. And these are on the tour because it's kind of unusual to see more than one. They're usually a single tree as a specimen in a yard. They bloom in late summer, and they actually do especially well with high heat. They're native to Asia, from Iran to Japan. And when they leaf out, they have light sensitive leaves that fold at night, and their blossoms, which are like a pink bottle brush shape, if you're familiar with the bottle brush plant, have a really lovely scent. They're a fairly fragile, brittle tree, but these seem to be doing quite well here. Looks like bird habitat up there. Schools. So, our next tree is this large Pacific madrone. This is a native to the Northwest. It's unusually large, and it was probably planted when this house was built, and the house built dates back to 1894. It's unusual to find madrone on the valley floor because they usually prefer well-drained rocky hillsides, and the other thing is they're hard to plant and transplant successfully because they don't like to be messed with. They don't like to be weeded around or much water, so they like to be isolated. This tree actually isn't looking really healthy right now. I asked our city forester, John Pywell, what he thought, and I think he said it might be some sort of a virus or a fungus. Two nice little dogwoods in front of it. Two trees are both linden trees. It's unclear whether they're German or American. The German is Tilia cordata, the American is basswood, Tilia americana. In Europe, according to Wikipedia, lime trees, which are not related to the citrus lime trees, are known to have reached ages measured in centuries, if not longer. The coppice of Tilia cordata in Westonbirt Arboretum in Gloucester, for example, is estimated to be 2,000 years old. This is a sweet olive, this shrub here. At first we thought it was a camellia, but it's a sweet olive developed by Salvia Island Nursery in Portland. In fall, the orange blossoms scent the entire neighborhood. In October, it's well worth coming by just to catch the smell. It's amazing. There's also a nice deodar cedar on the corner. This is a Camperdown elm, and I'm just going to read from the brochure because it's interesting. In 1640 in Dundee, Scotland, the Earl of Camperdown noticed a branch growing on the floor of his elm forest. He grafted it to a Scotch elm tree and it took hold, producing the first Camperdown elm. Every Camperdown elm in the world is a result of that graft. The house was built in 1892.